Howdy ho and hey oleo, my name is Cheeseoleo. Today we are going to be doing, obviously, a tier list. I will try to do each one of these at the end of the year or at the start of the next every year to kind of go over where the balancing is at the end of the year and kind of just compare that with each and every year as they go by. Obviously, this is going to be the first one since this is the first year that I have been playing and uploading on Kaiju Battlegrounds. So in front of me, I have a already done tier list. Obviously, you don't see it. I see it. It is a picture on my phone of one that I did with the help of K3 and Atlas just to get the most accurate tier list that I could. And this will be, just for reference, this will be like someone who's not a new player, they're kind of getting better at the game. So this will kind of be like a mid-tier player. If you gave a mid-tier player a max version of this kaiju, how well would they do? Now there will be some exceptions. Those being him and Goon. The way I will rank those will be at several different levels. I will rank them across the tier list, and then I will average that out, since they differ so much. And those levels will be level 100, level 400, level 600, level 800, and level 1000. Those are the big levels for him where he really kind of drastically changes. Now going over the tiers, we have S, which is best of the best, either overpowered or just borderline unkillable. We have A, very powerful, very good. B, slightly above average. C is going to be our average. B and C are kind of in the same boat here a little bit. D is below average, very hard to get kills with in the right circumstances, and F will be obviously almost impossible to get kills with. And we have another tier for not in the game anymore, because I don't feel like ranking GX. So I figure we should probably just get started with Old Demon. A lot of you guys might have really never even seen people play this guy. He doesn't get a lot of love, really. Which is a shame, because he does what he does, like his role as a glass cannon, he does very well. We're gonna put him in top of C tier, just outside of B tier. He just, as I said in the honest opinion about Demon video, he's just old. Obviously, his name is Old Demon. He gets outclassed, right? Coming up next, we have Diablo, who is in desperate need of a remodel. A very high chance to see that before the end of summer for him. Super excited about that. We're going to put him in high B tier. If you've ever tried to fight a competent Diablo, you understand what I mean when I say this guy hits like a tank. He is an absolute beast for damage soaking, one of the highest health pulls in game, especially after you start pumping points in. Solid base regen that can be improved very well, obviously very high damage. Slow attacks, but not to the point where they're useless most of the time, and that Breath of Death just coming in clutch every single time you use it. In my opinion, just a touch overpowered. I don't really know what you would nerf on him, though. Maybe health, maybe cooldowns. But he plays very well. But yeah, definitely an earned spot, I think, in high B tier. Now we might have something that might come as a surprise to a lot of you, is Freddy Fazbear, which, as of my video on Freddy, is unfortunately fallen down on the tier list, according to Trisno, which I will be basing my rankings of the dev kaiju specifically on. Just not overall, he just needs buffed, but honestly, I don't I don't I don't see him getting a buff really, since he's kind of a joke for kaijus. As far as kaijus go, I mean, not much to say here. He just doesn't really do much. So I guess we're just going to move on to pre-model Genesis. Pre-model Genesis, I did kind of have a little bit of a difficult time ranking this because he's very good for a really good player. He's arguably as good as current gen, but because we're going off of someone who is just above average, we're going to be putting him in middle of C tier. I think is a good spot for him. Not that he's bad. Honestly, I think his bulldozer, his charge, is better than current gen. Just the lack of a mist bomb really not working out in his favor here. Very good headbutt though. I think better than current gens. His mist breath is definitely lacking, and his mist cloud is very similarly to current gens, kind of just a little useless. Though the pose will always be, in my opinion, better than current gens. Not that that does matter very much, though, in terms of where he places on a tier list. And here we have GX, which obviously not in the game. Humvee, not in the game. And Old Krampus. Old Krampus we're going to put in mid to low B tier. He's fine. He plays very well. I really enjoy playing him. He has, I believe, the highest burst damage in the game. I don't think there's anything that really comes close. The only problem for him is gonna be that he just cannot keep up a fight while keep throwing your heavy hitter attacks. He levels skill points very well. If he could get to level 250, he would be A or maybe even S tier. But the big thing that's gonna mess him up is his cooldowns, which keep him balanced, but any brawl with a brawler is just not going to end well for him 9 times out of 10. It's not a great situation to be in, to be unable to brawl basically anything better than a Genesis, but he plays very well whenever you kind of get the hang of him above level 90. So definitely not a helpless kaiju, but one that definitely did need the glow up that he got. Alright, up next we have Old Leviathan. A lot of you guys might not know, I have a very special place in my heart for this kaiju. I don't know why, don't ask why, I have no idea. I just really like him. I think he's funny. I think he's really fun to play for me. But unfortunately, there's no getting around it. He's just not good. I don't think I really have to explain this one very much. He brawls well at point blank range. And even then, if a kaiju has a grab, you're probably dead. Which is becoming more and more. It's a unfortunate place for him to be, where he only has one good attack. Now his Ravage plays very well for his playstyle, but it has no range. His Tail Whip is easily his best attack, a fast attack, very fun to use, very simple, very easy. The charge, I know some people don't agree with this. I do not find any use out of his charge or his lunge. It takes way too long to use and it is way too slow. It does pretty decent damage though, and that Earthquake looks like and is a joke, honestly, in a fight. Just like normal Leviathan's Earthquake, it just takes too long. It takes too long, and it only does I think now it does just under 1,000, but I could be wrong about that. So yes, very unfortunate D tier for my boy, my baby, Premodel Leviathan. Hopefully we can see some buffs, but I highly doubt that there will be any rebalances for the old skins at any point. So I guess he'll just have to remain in low D tier, but who knows. Next up, we have Premodel Gorv. You already know. Alright, next up we have the Omega Tank. I don't think anyone's really gonna dispute this. A low to mid A tier for Omega Tank. Obviously, as far as vehicles go, definitely in the lead. No questions asked. Very high damage and a pretty decent health pool, actually. I don't know the exact stats. If I'm honest, I've only ever seen this thing a couple times, and I've never even bothered to look at the stats. Though, from what K3 and some of the other Kaiju Battlegrounds guys have said, it's easily an A tier. And now we have Old Sorgon. A lot of you guys might be surprised to see this ranking, but it's actually, for me, just outside of C tier. For an experienced player with max power, this thing can worm its way up to almost B tier. Just that slowness is insane to deal with. It just stacks so much of it. His beam does like 12 slowness. It is insane. But having that as your main method of fighting whenever you have basically no range, it's not a good strategy, though he does have the most health out of a reasonably obtainable kaiju as of right now. Alright, next we have the tank, and obviously not in the game anymore. And real quick, I'm just gonna go, I think we already know, I'm gonna put all the vehicles in F tier, other than Omega Tank obviously, but I don't think anyone's gonna argue about that. And here we have Void, obviously. Well, actually, a lot of you guys might not know this, but he's actually not in the game anymore, unfortunately. Old Wendigo, one of the kaijus that I wish I had, but unfortunately, I guess it's not meant to be. Judging from my friends that do have him, he's aight. I believe his beam got nerfed relatively recently. Got a shadow nerf, I believe. It seems to have much less range. I can't really speak much for its balancing, as this is just something that I've heard, like I've said. But going off what others have said, a mid C for Old Wendigo for someone who's not an experienced player. Zaratos. Obviously, no one's going to dispute it. Easy F. I'm kidding, obviously. No, once again, I don't have to explain this, I don't think. We all know this guy. If you have never fought this guy, good. Don't. It's really an unfair experience, to say the least. But yeah, obviously, top of S tier, we already have our king of the tier list, followed up swiftly by Old Zombie Rex. I think this is one of the kaijus that you just don't see because it's never played by any of the developers. It's just good. I don't have anything. It has one attack. It's good. It's just good. It does so much damage. It is so fast. It's just good. And here we have Mantalisk. I really struggled with this ranking, because I was thinking, is it really S tier? We all know Mantalisk is, like, busted. But is it S tier? And I have come to the conclusion that it is very tip-top of A tier. Very strong, obviously. Y'all know I love Mantalisk. But unfortunately just not quite breaking through to that S tier, but there might be some things that do surprise you, that do break through that S tier. But unfortunately for Mantalisk, not in that situation where she can bust through S tier, just because really of the very mobile focused meta right now. There's just a lot of fast kaijus, and she doesn't really struggle with them, but they're definitely a harder matchup, especially whenever they're in large groups. So for Mantalisk, top of A tier, not a shameful spot at all for something this powerful. And MVG, not in the game. Burning, not in the game. And Agarath. I do enjoy Agarath. I think he's a very fun kaiju, actually. My only problem with him is that he gets too many skins. We're gonna go ahead and put him in the very bottom of C. A very good player could really probably bump him up to B tier. But the problem with Agarath is he has a very, very firm skill ceiling. You will only ever get so good with him, but he does reward skilled play very well, though. So unfortunately, until his rework, Agarath is gonna be kind of sitting around C tier, even no matter how good you are at the game. Leviathan. From super limited to almost not limited at all. Obviously, with recent changes, went from being bullied to being the bullier. Easy A tier here. I don't think I have to explain too much with this guy. He's quite simply, he's just good. Like, he's not really slow anymore. Definitely not. He's not fast, mind you, but he's just all around a super solid, super easy kaiju, and that just leads to, aside from some nuances like side boxing and really knowing your tail range and how to use that effectively, there's nothing really that you can do to, I guess, mess up as this guy. Because it doesn't matter really if you throw the wrong attack or use your utility at the wrong time, or even have your skill points in a completely weird setup. Nothing really changes this guy as far as like a fight goes from the standard formula of just keep throwing attacks because you can. There's nothing really stopping you from just spamming your attacks, and it's a very fun kaiju to play. I'm very happy that he's finally not getting bullied anymore, though the abundance of them now does make him feel much less special. Thallo. You guys already know I don't really care much for this kaiju. Whenever it released, it was annoying. It's still annoying. Now it's just annoying and I don't know how to play it. Unfortunate situation for her, where she's, in my opinion, kind of underpowered, base Thallo is, and just actually got a nerf. Not looking good for Thallo. You almost never see these kaijus anymore. We're gonna put her just above Agarath, because a skilled Thallo could definitely even kill a Mantalisk, but like I said, this is not a skilled player tier list. This is just a slightly above average player. And up next we have Alpha Leviathan. Had this been a tier list several months ago, Alpha Leviathan would be far below normal Levi. But right now, just him being faster, I believe having more health, and I think he does slightly more damage. Plus, I mean, just look at him, he's so much cooler. He's just so much cooler. Like, obviously, just right above normal Levi. I don't think there's really any reason why he would be below. Now, him is going to be a interesting kaiju to rank, and just to recap, I'm going for him and Mr. Goon. I'm going to be ranking him. I'm going to place him at level 100. I'm going to place him at level 400. I'm going to place him at level 600. I'm going to place him at level 800. I'm going to place him at level 1000, and then I will average those out to see where he plays on the as a whole on the tier list. And for level 100, him, I think we all kind of know, top of D tier. Obviously, there's not a lot going on there. At this point, you'll probably have max regen and some into damage, or if you're smart, you'll put some into speed. Like I said, there's not a whole lot to work with. You're just kind of realizing how good his loadout really is. For level 400, that's whenever he starts becoming actually pretty good, or getting to that stage. At least we're gonna put him top of C tier or very bottom of B. As far as level 600 goes, top of B tier easily. Level 800, we're gonna put him right below Mantalisk for level 800, and max is gonna be mid S tier. As far as where that averages out, we're gonna say that's around low B tier. For higher levels, he's gonna be almost unkillable, especially after like level 800. Moving on to Sorgon, I don't think anyone's really gonna be kind of shocked by this. Obviously, mid A tier, just below Leviathan. Right now, Levi actually beats Sorgon. They've been kind of going back and forth in their rivalry, I guess. For Sorgon right now, though, he's actually getting a bunch of silent shadow nerfs. Which hopefully we can see those stop, because I get that his M1s are annoying. I have opinions about how he plays. Honestly, I think he does need a tiny slight rework, more specifically for his third attack, but I think he's honestly in a pretty good spot as far as balancing goes. Definitely not a leech tank anymore, as he has kind of been for most of his time that he's been after his remodel, let's say. But yeah, mid A tier, definitely not a bad spot to be in as far as the hierarchy of kaiju goes, I suppose you could say. Devil Thallow, I was super excited when this skin released. This is one that I'm not really too confident on the placement of. This may change drastically in the next year, because I believe Devil Thallow is planned to have her moveset reworked. But right now, just above normal Thallow, a more experienced player will definitely see how Devil Thallow could be leaps and bounds ahead of normal Thallow, mainly from that death from above actually being usable, rather than it being completely just detrimental to use for the Thallow. But yeah, very good skin. I've like I said, this is one of the only things in the list that I'm not really too confident of the placement of. But I did not hear any complaints from K3 or Atlas, so for now, this is where this is going. And gotta be honest, a large part of me wants to put this at the very bottom of F tier just out of spite. However, um, I think we all know Demon is rather good. Now I will clarify, this is not counting the combo that does like 4,000 damage in 7 seconds. We're not counting that. Because that is exploiting and will get you banned. So this is normal Demon, not Salvador. Honestly, just above Old Demon, but not for the reasons you would think. Old Demon actually does the glass cannon better than Current Demon. It's just Current Demon has so much more versatility, and he's so much faster that he barely ekes it out. And that reflect, that reflect is probably one of, if not the best utility in the game on a very solid Kaiju, actually. A more experienced Demon will be higher up on the list, obviously, but for someone who's just really starting to get into the combat in the game, it's a very solid pick, actually, especially to farm kills. Mortar Sucus I had a tough time ranking, just because there's so many easy counters to it. But obviously there's going to be, for how easy it is to play, because it's not hard to play at all. You just have to learn how to be a rat, I suppose. Very obviously high tier, especially with those phantoms. We're going to put Mortar in the very top of B. Like I said, he's very easy to play. The phantoms are, if you have full charge, you could basically kill almost anything, actually. Like I said, the only reason he's not really higher is he has so many counters, especially right now in the game. Just so many things that can just destroy him right now so fast with status effects, namely Manti. Hell, he gets, I don't know if he still does, but at one point he got one shot by both Leviathan and Sordon. I don't think he still does now. But, I mean, Fallow, Agarath, Wendigo, there's so many things that he just dies to, but there's also so many things that he can kill in a completely one-sided fight. It's a very difficult Kaiju to rank, actually. But yeah, top of B tier I think is a pretty good spot for him. Let's move on to Magnufera. Now, Magnufera, actually, I think a lot of you know, just got a nerf where before, he would be mid to low S tier, just because of how absolutely absurd he was. But finally he got a semblance of a nerf. Honestly, I don't notice much different about him, but I don't really play him, like, at all. But I've heard that it is much better for the bouncing as far as he goes. But we're going to put him just below him, actually. Very, very simple, very, honestly, really easy to Kaiju to use. Now, especially after that nerf, skill play is rewarded very, very much with him, which is nice for a starter to see that it can go above just getting clobbered constantly. But yeah, very nice placing for the starter. Hopefully we don't see him revert back to how absolutely busted he was before the recent nerf. Here's one of the things that might actually surprise you. Genesis is insane right now. There is no way around it. Genesis is just insane. If you have any brain cells at all, you can sweep with this Kaiju. It levels so incredibly fast. It's so just generally good against everything. It's easy to play, and yet somehow I still suck with it. But it's such an all-around good kaiju, or not even all-around good kaiju. It's an all-around great kaiju. Honestly, especially with that like 6-second pose and that miss bomb specifically, there's no other place to put this other than the bottom of S tier. Our first normal kaiju into S, and honestly, the only kaiju, the only normal kaiju in S tier, mainly from that 6-second pose with the status effect. This is the best kaiju to put a status effect on someone and watch them distance and then heal. This is the best kaiju for that, hands down. Mantalisk has nothing on Genesis as far as that goes. It's just such a... For me, it's just such an annoying kaiju to fight. But I cannot deny that it has definitely earned its way to the top of the tier list. Definitely a very strong and, in my opinion, overpowered kaiju. Hopefully we can see some nerfs as far as that goes here in the next little bit for Genesis. Gotta tell you, this guy has honestly kind of been the bane of my existence for the longest time ever since he released. Once again, I absolutely love his design. He was so overpowered. Much like Magnu, if this had been done pre-nerf, he probably would have been middle to the high end of S tier, likely just below True Him. Super overpowered, but he finally got a nerf. It honestly wasn't even that big of a nerf, but I see so much less of them now. The nerf to the tail and the stomp was so needed. I think it was handled very well. I think there's some more changes that probably could and should be done on this guy, but as of now, I actually think he's balanced pretty well. We're going to go ahead and put him at the bottom of A tier. Like I said, definitely still a very viable kaiju. I mean, it's Gorvathor. I don't think he needs much of an explanation. I mean, do I really even need to explain this kaiju? We're gonna put him middle of S tier. The only reason he's not on top of S tier is S tier is just crowded by exclusive kaijus. As someone who has True Him, I can actually give a first-hand kind of ranking for this guy. And yes, I can say that there is no other ranking. With the introduction of Gandalf actually being able to kill True Him, he can't really solo him, but if you get attacked by 2, there's really nothing you can do as True Him other than just, I guess, go heal off buildings, which is something that this guy can actually do, utilizing his utility. Honestly, outside of the city, well, he's still super good either way. Obviously, one-on-one against anything that is not a exclusive kaiju, this guy's gonna be top of the tiers. Very, very good. I do think he needs a tiny little bitty buff, but that's really it. Honestly, he's perfectly fine right now as is. It's just a personal preference thing for me, which I'm willing to accept that I'm biased. But yes, obviously, to no one's surprise, gonna be above every other kaiju that is not a dev kaiju. But here's something that might surprise a lot of you, is Mr. Goon. Once again, like I said, I'll rank him the exact same way. Now let me put some points down here as far as Mr. Goon goes. Yes, obviously, since he's just a skin for him, he will still reach level 1000. Yes, he still gets 40 skill points. Yes, if you max Mr. Goon, you still get True Him. Obviously, it's this shared XP across him and the Him Kaiju. This is the real thing that's going to detriment him here is the changes that have been made to his loadout, because yes, he does have 11,000 health at max, the same as max True Him. The problem here is everything else that was changed. Many of you might not know he does less damage. It's almost unnoticeable that he does less damage, but it is less damage. He does not do knockback other than his second attack, that kind of charge forward that he does. But that does literally the smallest amount of knockback possible, where you will only notice it to stop someone's charge forward. Which is a very big part of him's loadout that makes him so good. Just missing that, and this is literally, even with max speed, the slowest thing in the game. This is slower than the tanks. It's the main thing that will set you so far down as this kaiju. For level 100, he's going to be top of F tier. He would almost be in D tier, other than he's just useless. He doesn't have a lot. He only has like 5,000 health at base. It's just, he has nothing going for him at level 100. At level 400, we'll put him in a mid C tier. At that point, you'll probably have max health. You'll have your regen points. You'll probably start leveling damage. At that point, you're kind of sitting around where he starts to get really good. Same thing with him. At level 600, we're going to go ahead and put him in the top of C tier or bottom of B tier. At level 800, we'll put him in the very, very bottom of A tier. And at level 1000, without max size, we'll put him at top of A tier. With max size, we'll put him right above Gen. That averages out to be right about here. Just below Magnu. Like I said, something that might actually surprise a lot of you is that Goon is not this god tier kaiju for how expensive as he is. Many of you guys might know I'm actually one of the few people fortunate enough to actually get Goon. But yeah, really unfortunate for especially how expensive he is right now. But I see no problem with it, honestly. This guy is purely a meme kaiju, even compared to him, which is already a meme kaiju. It's just, he is where he is for a reason, and I would not change really anything about him. He needs to not be good, honestly. That's my stance on it. Now for Siren Head, this is another kaiju that I kind of had some trouble with, because a very good Siren Head, I mean, just talk to Maul. Like, these things will punish you to no end and be some of the most annoying fights. that you've ever had in your life. But for an above average Siren Head, the biggest thing here is just going to be those hitboxes just being almost hard to miss, especially for that third attack. And those absurd status effects. We're going to go ahead and put him mid B tier, just above Old Krampus. Very, very solid, good spot for a very, actually a pretty fun and interesting kaiju. Here's something I bet none of you were expecting. Zombie Rex, which according to Trisno, does 15 damage. So we're going to put him below the tanks, and actually going to move Freddy there as well. Looking at my, I guess my cheat sheet. Yeah. I'm not really going to say much on this. I was going to say, if Trist really wants to buff this guy, he can buff the guy. Honestly, I don't really care much for Zombie Rex. So we're going to move swiftly on from that, because there's nothing else to unpack there. Moving on to the deer monster, Wendigo Man. Very simply, just high B tier, actually right above Siren Head. Very kind of easy loadout. The only problem that I have with Wendigo is he only has like really 2 attacks that I use. The Shining Star is going to be the Bone Impale. That first attack is comparatively all of his other attacks just do not hold a candle to that one. That one just performs so well, especially for how he plays. It's almost makes the other attacks completely obsolete. Aside from the beam, and Crippling Screech is useful here and there. Though if Crippling Screech actually had knockback similar to the boss fight, I would probably put him up higher, maybe top of B. I don't think he'd quite get into A though, unfortunately. But yeah, good solid kaiju, definitely a good choice, especially against the fast-paced kind of meta. He does very well against a lot of the fast kaijus. Here we have New Krampus, and I was debating whether to put him above or below Gorvathor. I'm gonna go ahead and put him above Gorvathor, but for all intensive purposes, these two are basically equal. If I could put these in the same spot, I would. These are literally the exact same for their power. I guess for their power level, you could say. Just obviously, New Krampus, very solid kaiju. He's actually a pretty good brawler. That Ice Wall punch combo that's gonna hurt a lot. That instant strike will mess up any fast kaiju, without a doubt. If it's used at the right time, it will always make someone mad. That lightning loadout, especially with that lightning barrage attack that he has, will liquefy a Leviathan, a Saurian, or it will even sting for a true him just because of the size of their hitboxes. Just a very solid kaiju, really just performing very well. It's nice to have an event kaiju that does so well and can really almost fully compete with some of the other higher-ups on the roster, especially one that I love so much. So yes, Krampus is going to be an A tier. If you don't have him, get him while you can. This is a kaiju that is worth your time. Here we have a pick that might be controversial. in the light of Zombie Leviathan's recent changes, and as a slightly above average Leviathan player myself, I can actually rank this, I think, pretty accurately. We're gonna go ahead and put him right below Mortar. As of right now, the thing holding him back is gonna be that Levi roar and his Harden. Those two things just do not work well with him. Now, he is on track to actually get a new shorter roar, about 9 seconds. Though his Harden, I think, is going to remain absolutely useless, as opposed to the 40% damage resistance that you get with Leviathan. You get a 10% damage resistance with Zombie Leviathan. I know I mentioned my opinions on Zombie Levi in my last KB video, and what I would like to see as far as his Harden goes, for it to be inverted. But as of right now, for someone who's slightly above average, this Kaiju will perform well. Just, it's gonna struggle against some of the bigger brawlers, like Levi, or something like Gorvathor, and honestly even Krampus. Anything that can keep up with this, it's not going to have as easy of a time with. So for a more inexperienced player, this just will not be a great pick. Though not useless in the slightest. And I don't even remember the name of this guy, Shadow Muslim Money Bangs or whatever it is. This is a new block skin. For those of you who haven't seen it, I'm just gonna go over it very quickly. It's very fast. I think it starts at, I guess, like 300 speed, and every time you put a point into speed, it goes up times 10. It's very fast. It obviously, with it being a block skin, it has the push, it has the beam. It only has 500 health though, but when you kill it, it's almost guaranteed to kill you. It explodes whenever you kill it, and it does like, I think it's like 8,000 damage. I'm not too sure on the stats of this explosion specifically. Having fought plenty of these things, I'm gonna go ahead and put it just above True Him, though. Whenever the mods are kind of goofing off, though, it's definitely killable. And I've seen them die a lot accidentally because it's one shot by most everything in the game. It's so blisteringly fast that there is no hope of you catching this thing, really. But yeah, very, very, obviously very good Kaiju. There's not a lot to unpack here with this guy. Just almost unfair to fight after 1 point into speed for this guy. And here we have Gandalf. I'm not going to sugarcoat it at all, really. This is, in my opinion, purely a meme Kaiju that happens to perform well sometimes. We're going to go ahead and put him right above Old Wendigo. Honestly, I would put him in D tier or very bottom of C. But it's really, as I mentioned earlier, really the only thing that kind of puts him this high is the fact that two of them can kill a true him. Like, that's really, honestly, it. Having a Kaiju that does not perform well against a heavily speed and movement focused meta right now does not exactly grant you the win, as you might think. Especially with a lot of super slow attacks that take a while to do their full damage, and he's a good kaiju, just in the wrong meta. I feel is where Gandalf is right now. But yeah, this is my official tier list for 2024. I will be doing another one here probably during or after this next Christmas event. Like I said, I'll try to do one of these every year. I might do a smaller tier list after some updates with big balance changes, though, if they are astronomically large. But yeah, like I said, this is my tier list. I fully expect some of you to have problems with it. If you have any critiques that you would like to give, feel more than welcome to in the comments. I promise you I will not bully you too bad. So that'll be all for me tonight. So I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.